Good afternoon, my name is Jon Crisafi, reporting from the Philadelphia Union Embassy in Washington, D.C., and I'm here to preview the 2017 season for the MLS Show. The Union have only made the playoff twice, in 2011 and just barely in 2016. So this season they're going to look to do more, hopefully a playoff win. The Union's beautiful home ground is Talon Energy Stadium, located in Chester, Pennsylvania, which is located just southeast of Philadelphia proper. To understand exactly why that is, I would suggest watching Sons of Ben the movie, which can now be viewed on Netflix. Excellent origin story of the Sons of Ben and ultimately the team itself. So what's to look forward to in 2017? Second-year sporting director, former U.S. national team midfielder Ernie Stewart will try and continue to moneyball his way through the complicated financial puzzle that is the internal economics of Major League Soccer. Famed for his abilities at finding talent in lower leagues and then bringing them up into actually formidable players or profitable transfers, Big Ern now has a full season at Philadelphia under his belt and will look to take Philadelphia to the next level in 2017. The Union are coached by Philadelphia native Jim Curtin. Young coach, only 37 years old, 6'4" or 193 centimeters if you live anywhere else in the world. Coach Curtin has been head coach of the Union since summer of 2014. Prior to that, he was an assistant coach in 2013. He is the winningest coach in the club's short history. Since 2016, he's lined up the team in a 4-2-3-1 formation and seems pretty dedicated to carrying that philosophy in the future for this season. Dedication to that formation came to a fault and was a point of contention amongst a lot of fans when the results started drying up and there was no adjustments being made. Here's how we're likely to fill out that formation for the 2017 season. Starting between the post, the Union goal is tended by Jamaican national team starter Andre Blake. Man has a reach that Stretch Armstrong is envious of. Coming off a stellar 2016, which was his first full season playing as a Union member, Blake won the 2016 Goalkeeper of the Year award. He started in the All-Star game against Arsenal and pretty much was the main driver in making sure that the Union actually got above that red. Blake's going to be looking to take the next step in his development this season, much like a lot of the players in the club. He's only 26 and has a pretty high ceiling according to everyone who's ever watched this kid play. The one thing he even criticizes himself on is his distribution out of the back, which is something that seems like all young goalkeepers have to do. I mean, there's no young goalkeeper that gets praised for like, hey, he's a total shit shot stopper, but man, can that kid punt. Blake is backed up by local lad John McCarthy, who won the hearts of Union seasons ago. In 2015, he was forced into service after some injuries and some annoying goalkeeping politics that actually earned him some stellar wins, very emotional, as well as a excellent run in the 2015 Cup where he had some really outstanding and exciting penalty saves against rival teams. Defense. Locking down the right side, new star of the team, Keegan Rosenberry, will come back for his second season with the club. Having come from relative obscurity to joining Blake in the All-Star call-ups, played every single minute this season, and just barely missed out on the 2016 Rookie of the Year. The second season might be a bit tougher now that teams are a little bit more wise to what he's capable of, but this is his chance to take the next step and really show that he's one of the better right-backs in the league. Maybe even has a chance to become the next DeAndre Yedlin. Give us a few more seasons, please. Pushing Rosenberry for his starting position is former Union starter and fan favorite Ramon Gaddis, who has a lot of speed and really is probably one of the club's best 1v1 defenders. In the center of the back line, we have young boys Richie Marquez, Ken Tribbett, Josh Yarrow, and homegrown player Austin Trust. How young, you might ask? Well, between the four of them, they only have 5 seasons of top-flight experience. And now we know that Josh Yarrow will be recovering from shoulder surgery for the next 3 to 4 months. Many of them look to be pretty promising, and with the Union signing U.S. veteran Gucci Onyewu, a name that has not been heard for years because he's been gone from the entire soccer scene for 2 years. But no doubt it was a very deep and reflective experience in the wilderness to find himself as to become the next premier center back in Major League Soccer. Or he was just hurt and just couldn't get signed anywhere. At left back, it's a competition between returning veteran Fabinho and newcomer Giuliano Wijnaldum. Yes, the younger brother of the Liverpool midfielder. Fabinho has really come off his best season in a Union shirt. Got 6 assists and whips in cross from the left flank like no one else on the team can. But the use of an international spot on Wijnaldum is more suggestive that he's here to actually push for a starting spot. Until he adjusts to the league, he'll probably just remain an understudy midfield. We'll start with the Union's first big money man, Alejandro Bedoya. Transferred from Nantes FC in Ligue 1 last summer, Bedoya is likely to be the player that the rest of the team is built around. Being the only $1 million man in the Union's short 7-year history, a lot's going to be expected of him this season. After getting adjusted to the league in the last half of last, shielding that young back line is really going to be important, and this is where we have the complication of Maurice Adu. Formerly of Stoke City and Rangers, Adu has been dealing with injury after injury, and it's been not. Adu didn't register a single minute for the first team in 2016, although he did have a couple appearances for the USL side, Bethlehem Steel. It just seemed to be that his injury would either get really close to getting there, and then we'd hear that, he's going to be a couple weeks out, and then before we knew it, we ran out of weeks in the season. They seem to be a little bit shy, the front office, about announcing when they expect him to return. But there could be reason for optimism, or there could not be, because this is a Philadelphia. If that doesn't make sense, Google search Negadelphia, they'll explain it all. While Adu finally gets healthy, we do have Brian Carroll and Warren Creavalle. Carroll's more of the wiser, better at reading the game, whereas Creavalle is got legs but not that much discipline. I'll get to the Bosnian towards the end. On the left wing and racking up the goals last season, the revival of Chris Pontius was one of the most welcome storylines of the Union's 20. Pontius was transferred during the offseason from DC United, where he began his career, and started off to a lot of fanfare. Unfortunately, a lot of injuries had set him back and limited his production, but the man came back last season in Union colors, scoring 12 goals and 6 assists, and won the 2016 Comeback Player of the Year. So coveted by so many players in this. His 2016 performance earned him a call-up to the January camp and actually got his first 2 caps in the U.S. Well deserved, Chris. Looking to back up Chris Pontius seems to be Fafa Pico, who the Union signed from Bundesliga 2 side FC St. Pauli. Pico actually had some pretty good success with the Fort Lauderdale Strikers, and I think the Tampa Bay Rowdies as well. So he'll be looking to add another dimension to the Union attack. Apparently he's fast, he has some technical ability. Honestly, I don't know that much about him, so we'll see. Competing for a starting spot on the right wing, we'll get to experience 2 technical delights: the Brazilian Ilson Jr., known last year as Ilsinho, and German Fabian Herbert. Ilson Jr. brought a unique pedigree to the Union last season, having come over from Champions League side Shakhtar Donetsk. He was able to introduce the MLS with some dizzying elasticos and some pretty nifty stepovers. 90-minute fitness was the enemy of the Brazilian last year, so that gave the opportunity for Fabian Herbert to step in. Drafted out of Creighton University in 2016, Herbers really earned his spot on the team last year through a lot of effort, a lot of hustle, some pretty intelligent runs, and then eventual contributions on the. He actually led the team in assists with 7 and slotted 3 of his. The offensive excitement for the Union comes from Roland Alberg, who registered 9 goals in the league with not making that many appearances, often coming on as a super sub. It's already put together a pretty nice highlight reel, and also a master of the dark arts, as those in Kansas City would probably. He even got the club's 2nd ever hat trick against the Chicago Fire. He almost had 4 that game, but much more depressing is that the club has only had 2 hat tricks in the 7 years. While he had an excellent rate of goal production, his time was limited last year because of his sort of lack of intangibles valued by Jim. But speaking of those intangibles, the man who seems to be entirely made up of intangibles that he might as well be a ghost is CJ Sapong. Sapong started 2016 off very brightly, scored some goals, had some excellent hold-up play, and pressed well when the Union would actually press. But then towards the end of the season, the goals sort of dried up, and that's probably because so did the shots for some reason. He just would not turn and shoot at the goal. Sapong didn't have that much in terms of a backup, and then mid-season the Union brought on Charlie Davies, the once much hyped American forward, who had gone through his own troubles recovering from a horrific car accident here in DC, as well as beating cancer. Well, definitely 2 tough things to overcome. It's good to see that he did. Still has not opened his Union account, so he's more likely to projected as a bench option this season. Unfortunately, 2017 also starts with some key. Last year's captain and former Swiss international Tranquillo Barnetta was released on a free transfer to rejoin his boyhood club, FC St. Gallons in Switzerland. Unfortunate for Union fans, he's definitely one of the better talents and better players to ever wear the Union colors, but also happy to see that the club will do good by its players, well, at least now. While not an off-season departure, the loss of Vincent Nogueira mid-season last year was definitely the turning point of the Unions. One of the most technical talents to ever join the club and definitely one of the most gifted passers. Vincent left due to personal health issues. Again, something to be proud of that the club was willing to make that sacrifice for them. So key losses aside, we also had some key additions. Looking to replace the distribution that Nogueira brought, the front office has brought in Haris Medunjanin. Is that right? The Bosnian international Medunjanin played in stints in Turkey, in Spain, in the Netherlands, and last played for Maccabi Tel Aviv. Don't know too much about this guy yet, but from the highlights and some of the preseason footage that I've seen, he seems to be a pretty comparable replacement for Nogueira. Now, everyone's saying, exactly what I observed. He demands the ball, drops deep, collects it, and really good with the vertical passes on the deck. You know those kind of passes that people who don't even watch soccer see and go, damn. The new striker that the Union had in the offseason was not a DP caliber striker, but Arsenal Academy product Jay Simpson. Made a couple appearances for the Arsenal's first team, only in League Cup play. Mostly spent his English career bouncing around the lower divisions between the Championship and League One and League Two. Throw in a season in Thailand in there for some reason. He was transferred from Leyton Orient about a month and a half ago, and a lot of fans seem to be skeptical. The dude had an incredible season last year, scored like 25 goals in 45 appearances, but that's at League Two, and so everyone's trying to do the equations as to how that stacks up between the two. The most optimistic view is that this is the next Bradley Wright Phillip. Came from a lower English division league. He's English. Sure, it adds up. So it could be 15 goals this season, or it could just be like 2, 3. Thanks for coming. On the cusp of being in the 18 are homegrown defensive midfielder Derek Jones and Eric Ayuk, who plays out in the wing. Jones definitely is starting to make an impression in the preseason. Whether or not he actually sees some game time this season, I think is more likely than it was last year. Ayuk, on the other hand, has a longer list of competition. Some of the younger draft picks I'm not too aware of. I know they just signed the English duo in defense, Jack Elliott and Aaron Jones, and they'd signed Adam Najim, who's an attacking midfielder, and Marcus Epps, who they drafted, who looks really good. Really excited about this. The objective this season is to do better than last season. Please. The team is stronger, it's deeper than last year, but so is everyone else in the league. So hopefully our improvements are the difference makers compared to at least the Eastern Conference, if not the rest of the league. The Union have a little bit of a rough schedule, opening their first game across the continent in Vancouver and then coming home to 2016 finalist Toronto. Always a difficult game. The Union never seem to have a favorable opening to their schedule, but the way I see it, if they're really taking the next steps, they can't be intimidated by who they get put in front of them in the first couple weeks of the season. So it seems to be the best recipe is to have a strong start, control your slump that usually happens in the middle of the season, and finish strong. Instead, we did all right in the first two, and then the third end of the season, not so good. And that momentum just crashed us out of the playoffs pretty easy. So that does it for the 2017 preview of the Philadelphia Union. Anyway, good afternoon. My name is Jon Crisafi, reporting from the Philadelphia Union Embassy in Washington, D.C., and I'm here to preview the 2017 season for the MLS Show. The Union have only made the playoff twice, in 2011 and just barely in 2016. So this season they're going to look to do more, hopefully a playoff win. The Union's beautiful home ground is Talon Energy Stadium, located in Chester, Pennsylvania, which is located just southeast of Philly. Curtin has been head coach of the Union since summer of 2014. Prior to that, he was an assistant coach in 2013. He is the winningest coach in the club's short history. Since 2016, he's lined up the team in a 4-2-3-1 formation and seems pretty dedicated to carrying that philosophy in the future for this season. Dedication to that formation came to a fault and was a point of contention amongst a lot of fans when the results started drying up and there was no adjustments being made. Here's how we're likely to fill out that formation for the 2017 season. Starting between the posts, the Union goal is tended by Jamaican national team starter Andre Blake. Man has a reach that Stretch Armstrong is envious of. Coming off a stellar 2016, which was his first full season playing as a Union member, Blake won the 2016 Goalkeeper of the Year award. He started in the All-Star game against Arsenal and pretty much was the main driver in making sure that the Union actually got above that red. Blake's going to be looking to talent in lower leagues and then bringing them up into actually formidable players or profitable transfers. Big Earn now has a full season at Philadelphia under his belt and will look to take Philadelphia to the next level in 2017. The Union are coached by Philadelphia native Jim Curtin. Young coach, only 37 years old, 6'4" or 193 centimeters if you live anywhere else in the world. Coach Philadelphia proper. To understand exactly why that is, I would suggest watching Sons of Ben the movie, which can now be viewed on Netflix. Excellent origin story of the Sons of Ben and ultimately the team itself. So what's to look forward to in 2017? Second-year sporting director, former U.S. national team midfielder Ernie Stewart will try and continue to moneyball his way through the complicated financial puzzle that is the internal economics of Major League Soccer. Famed for his abilities at